For joining me today. I am Dave Hultin, and I am your AI for Printers workshop host. Today's workshop, we are going to talk about what it's like to feel like you're one person away from a crisis. And we're going to use the employee retention strategy workflow prompt to help ease some of that fear and pain here. I will use it as a real practical example of how AI workflows can turn AI guesswork into something that you and your team can actually rely on. Now, during the workshop, you're going to hear me use the term AI workflow. And I'm simply talking about a structured AI prompt that's designed to guide the work it does with you step by step so that the results are consistent instead of hit or miss. And that'll become obvious as we go through today's workshop. So today's workshop will be hands-on, so get ready with your favorite AI tool. That can be Claude, Gemini, Copilot, ChatGPT, any of them will work. And if you don't yet have your favorite AI tool, that's all right. All you need to do is go to chatgpt.com, create an account, and that'll take about 30 seconds, and the free version of that will work for everything that we're going to be doing today. Most printers I talk with aren't asking, should we use AI anymore? There's a question that goes a lot deeper than that. And the question is, why does trying harder with AI still feel like I'm guessing on what to do with AI? You'll try a prompt, you'll get results that look kind of okay, and they'll be decent. Then you'll try again tomorrow and the results will be different and it seems like it's behaving different, or maybe it's generic. Or maybe it doesn't quite fit the way your printing business works. And you'll find that the problem isn't effort. The problem is that most people are using AI like a one-off tool instead of a repeatable system. And so when you use AI in that way, you're either going to be underwhelmed or overwhelmed, or perhaps land somewhere between fear and confusion. So today is really about seeing the huge potential in AI so you don't get stuck in fear and confusion. Now, before we dig in today, I want to be clear about what we're here to accomplish. The goal isn't to understand employee retention better. The goal is to leave this workshop with a clear picture of where your team is most vulnerable and come up with a plan to protect the people who keep your shop running. That's what we're building towards. And we're going to do that in these three big picture items. We're going to run the workflow. That's the hands-on part of it. We're going to see the bigger system. And then we're going to talk about the ways to keep that momentum going. All right, before we start, I want to get a feel for how you and your team are using AI today. So look for the meeting chat, and I need to open up mine as well here, but look for the meeting chat and go ahead and drop in the letter that best matches how you and your team are using AI today. That might be that that you are using AI and your team does not. Maybe you are B, where a few people on your team are using AI casually, or C, your team has a structured approach for using AI. Maybe you don't have a team, and that's fine too. You're working solo. So whichever one of those letters best matches up with the way that you're using AI, just go ahead and drop that into the chat. Definitely interested in the answer, but I definitely also want to make sure you can get to the chat, because that's where the workflow prompt is going to show up in a few moments here. So go ahead and drop that in, and which one best matches your team. And I just realized that my screen dropped off, and I need to share that again. And that has been happening to me lately. I kind of get teased on that because there it is again now, because AI should be able to fix that, but it hasn't. I think I have a power issue on all the stuff that I have connected here together. So anyway, there it is again. There is the screen. Drop the letter that best matches your experience with AI. You use AI, a few people on your team use AI casually, you have a structured approach, or you don't have a team, whichever letter best matches you. Okay, so let us keep on moving here. I just want to double check to make sure my screen is indeed showing, and it looks like it is. And so here's where we're going to go next. Is we're going to go to what brought you here today. Most likely you heard me talk about the simple version of the employee retention strategy prompt. either at aiforprinters.com, or maybe you caught wind of this workshop through my posts on LinkedIn. Some of you requested the upgraded version of that simple prompt at aiforprinters.com, so you could get even better results. And we'll walk through that too. But for today's big win, I'm going to show you the AI workflow version of the prompt. And that's the one you actually want, because that's the one that helps you get real, meaningful work done with AI. It's the version of the prompt that produces the high value results. And so you'll get today's employee retention strategy AI workflow prompt in just a few moments. But let's build up to it, and we're going to build up to it by looking at the simple prompt. And honestly, this prompt is too basic. I hope you don't use it, but I want to show it to you because you can use that as a reference point to better see where we're going. And there it is on the screen. It is a simple prompt, simple enough to read quickly. Ask me for the name of my most important employee, their role, and what they handle that nobody else can. Then tell me what would likely happen to my business if they left tomorrow. Be specific and practical. That's the prompt we're giving to AI. That's what we're asking AI to do. And I'm going to stay high level here, but I do want to show you what that looks like just so we're all on the same page. So if you drop that into your AI, you'll see it like this, and it will indeed ask you for the name of your employee and everything else we told it to do. And we can give it that information. My most important employee is Maria Chen. She's my production manager. And this is a pre-run version of that. And we just keep on going with that information. She's the only one who really knows how to schedule the floor efficiently, handle color matching on her offset press, and troubleshoot equipment issues without calling a tech. She also trains every new hire. If something goes wrong in production, everyone goes to Maria. Kind of had to laugh when I had our fictitious name. My wife and I are going to go see The Sound of Music this weekend, and I'm thinking ahead to that music. How do you solve a problem like Maria? Well, here's our other end. Maria is the solution to these problems in this example. So AI does continue on there. This is exactly the kind of situation that feels stable right up until it isn't. It's not going to tell you anything new. You already kind of have the gut feel in this case about what's there. But boy, it all of a sudden becomes very real when you say, oh, yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling. I see what could happen if Maria disappears. Here's what happens in the first week, a few more weeks, or maybe a few months out. And what's the bigger risk? Maria isn't just doing tasks. She's holding institutional knowledge and decision-making patterns. So that's the simple prompt. Just wanted to have a quick set of expectations there. But we can do better with that. And AI has a lot of freedom to explore when you use a simple prompt. So that's where we want to give a little bit more context to AI, maybe set up some basic guardrails. And now we can accomplish that same thing with an upgraded version of that prompt. A few things to point out, just again, high level, is if we look at how this upgraded prompt, same type of an idea, we're still focusing on employee retention. That's the issue we're addressing here. But an upgraded version of this goes a little bit further. A few things to point out is we're giving AI a very specific role, a skilled workforce strategy consultant. We're telling AI, ask me 4 different things here. It's not just that quick one-off question. And we're asking those questions one at a time. And again, without getting into the weeds, when you tell AI to ask you a question one at a time, it uses what it learns from one question to make the next question even smarter and how it processes that. So you're going to see that here. And then once we provide the answers to AI, then we have 3 things that we're asking AI to do: a vulnerability assessment, a list of 3 to 5 retention actions, and a 30-day quick start plan. So let's see what that one looks like. I've also pre-run that. I'll give you a peek at what that one looks like, the upgraded version of that. Scroll all the way back up to the top. So we just drop that in there. And AI does exactly what we asked it to do. It's asking us those questions one at a time. How many employees do you have? About 12. Who is the one person your operation depends on the most, and what do they handle? Same thing that we gave it earlier. Maria, production manager, and some of that basic information. What's the biggest source of stress or friction for your team right now? Honestly, it's the unpredictability. You would answer with your own answers, of course. And have you lost anyone important in the last year? And what happened? And yeah, we had one of those moments. So we're going to tell AI all of that. Again, high level, what's happening now? Vulnerability assessment. We told it to give us that vulnerability assessment based on the information we've given it. AI has said, you've got a single point of failure, and that is Maria. She isn't just important. She's carrying multiple critical systems in her head. You have a surge-based breakdown risk. We have proven recovery gap. We've already lived it. Hidden retention risk, and on. And it's going to continue on with everything we asked it to do. Priority retention actions, things we can actually start doing right now this month. And a 30-day quick start plan. How do we get this going right away? That's what an upgraded version of the prompt can do when it has more context and more specificity about what you're bringing to the table. Okay, we are going to keep on moving through this a little bit on the faster side now, because now here's the one that you came here for. This is the AI workflow prompt. This is the employee retention strategy AI workflow prompt. It's the one I'm going to give you today. It's the one that turns AI from interesting into useful. Now, before I walk through this, I want to pause just for a second, because what you've seen so far is how improving a prompt improves results. But what you're about to see is what happens when you stop trying to get the prompt right and instead let the workflow do the thinking for you and with you. Now, this prompt looks a lot longer than the others. That doesn't mean it's harder for you. It means AI has more to work with, which actually means there are fewer decisions for you to make to get the quality work done. You're not expected to remember any of this. You don't have to understand how this prompt is written. All you need to be able to do is copy it and paste it and answer the questions as it walks you through that workflow. This is you and AI working together over multiple steps. We're going to let AI do the hard work, and you check in to keep it pointing in the right direction. So let me walk you through that now, and I want you to look for the improvements that happen as we progress from a simple prompt to the upgraded prompt, and then now to this AI workflow prompt. And then after this brief walkthrough, then we're going to go hands-on, and that's when I'll share the employee retention strategy AI workflow prompt with you. So to look at what that looks like, here is what happens when we run the version of this prompt. That's the AI workflow prompt. And again, I have to scroll all the way up to the top, but it does start with copying and pasting. So it's all in here. It's collapsed now, but everything about that AI workflow prompt is right there. And what happens with an AI workflow is this. The AI workflow is going to come alongside you and introduce itself. I'm your sales and marketing strategist for commercial printing, and I'm ready to help you work through an employee retention strategy in practical step-by-step way. And then the AI workflow comes alongside you and says, here are the steps we're going to follow. Step 1, define employee retention objectives. Number 2, identify reasons for turnover. And you can see the remaining steps there: retention strategies, implement engagement and development programs, and all of the rest there. Here's one of the things that makes AI super helpful, is because with the way the workflows are set up, the AI comes back to you and says, before we begin, would you like a brief summary of the ideas behind this workflow, or would you rather jump in? Now, if this is not a topic that is new to you, you may not need that summary, but think of all the different ways that you might use a workflow. And maybe there is going to be that one new topic where you just want that little extra education. And AI will do that. You can say, give me the summary, as I've done here, and it will indeed summarize the work that we're about to do together. What this workflow is really about. It's not about keeping employees happy in the generic sense. It's about protecting capacity, consistency, and profitability inside your shop. Sounds like a good target to aim for. All right, so AI is using the steps it's going to perform to build this summary and give you a little mini course on what we're about to do. And it keeps on going. You can unpack that on your own as you run this. The strategy behind the steps, an important reality check, and then we launch into step one. I'm going to focus on step one just for a moment, then we'll fast forward so we can get the prompt in your hand. So step one, now we're back up to the steps that AI said it was going to help us with. Define employee retention objectives. And here we are, step one, define employee retention objectives. And you'll see this pattern where as we do the work at each step, AI is going to ask us for the information that it needs to be helpful. And that's what's happening here. AI says, what are your primary goals when it comes to retention right now? Answer in your own words, but it also gives us some handy guidance. What are your goals? Reducing turnover, improving day-to-day morale, any of those things. We come back, we tell our story. What are our goals? Well, I've done that here in my pre-run version of that. And AI comes alongside us and says, okay, I understand. Let me repeat that back to you, reflect this back in a structured way before we move forward. AI is giving us the opportunity to make sure that we agree that AI understands what we're working on here. And so we can read through that. And again, high level for now. We're going to let you get into the weeds here in just a moment. And at the end of this first step, AI says, before we move to step two, I want to make sure we're aligned. So we're not letting AI just run into the wild on its own here. AI is coming alongside. Am I going in the right direction? That's our role, is to say, yep, that's right. Or maybe we're saying, no, you missed something here. Let's figure that out before we move on to the step two. And then we keep on going. Step one is done. AI has learned something about us. We go to step two, identify reasons for turnover. Same thing. AI is going to introduce the step, ask us some questions. We respond, and AI takes our response, makes sure that we're in agreement, and says, once we're in agreement, then we can move on to step three. And in this case, in this run through, I said, okay, that's mostly on point, but I wouldn't say it's entirely centered on. And then we're repeating back some of the things that we noticed. So I'm blasting through this right now just to move quickly. You would take the thoughtful moments and look at AI's response. And in this case, I said, no, let's not move on yet. And AI says, all right, let's work on this step a little bit longer. And eventually we get to the point where we say, yep, now we're ready. Everything is good. We can go on to step three. And on and on and on. Step three, I'm going to go fast forward now. Step four, implement employee engagement. Step five is going to roll down here somewhere. I think it may be, okay, there it is, step five, until we get to the very end. And I am going way too fast here. I want to find where we can find it. Step six, our employee retention strategy. And then we are done, and we have a playbook along with AI suggesting optional next steps we can continue. All right, a lot of information in there. AI moves very, very fast. It doesn't mean it's instant, because we still need to kind of pause and look at the work AI is doing. But instead of looking at work that would span days, if not weeks, it's compressing down into just moments where we can look at AI and say, yep, we're on the right path to move forward. All right, I tend to get into the weeds even when I say I'm not getting into the weeds. So let's get back to our regularly scheduled program. And let's grab the workflow, and I'm going to get this in the meeting chat so you can use it too. Now, remember, you don't have to read the prompt. You don't need to understand how it works. You just need to know that all you need to do is copy and paste. So if you're attending live, you can copy and paste it from the meeting chat in just a moment. If you're watching the recording, if you want the exact workflow that we're looking at here, I'll let you know how you can access it too. Now, I want to be very clear about the goal of this hands-on part of the workshop. The goal is not to finish it. You can do that later. The goal is to get a feel of what it's like to work with an AI workflow prompt. And we're going to stop after about 90 seconds after you've tried that workflow and come back together. But for now, let me get that workflow prompt so that you can try that out on your own. And let me get that up here. Let's see, got to search for it here first. Our employee retention, so I'm copying it now. I'll get that back into the chat and paste it into the chat. And remember, it's all you need to do is copy and paste that. So that is in the meeting chat now. So now it's your turn to run the workflow. It's in the meeting chat. Just copy it out of the meeting chat, copy all of it, and paste it into your AI and run it and let AI lead the work that you're doing. So I'll give you 90 seconds to try the AI workflow. If questions come up, I'll be watching the chat, or you can open up your mic and ask your question. So with that said, go ahead and run the workflow. I'll turn my camera off while we do that. Go ahead and run that workflow, copy it all, paste it into your AI. One of the first things it'll ask you to do is if you want a summary, I would suggest at a minimum, just go ahead and ask for that summary and then follow AI's lead. Okay, about 60 seconds left. Remember, our goal is not to finish the workflow. Our goal is to get a feel about how an AI workflow works. And if you're looking for a shortcut, one thing you can do if AI is asking you for information for today, just say, answer for me. And AI will probably know enough about you to give you a really good start at answering that question. You can tell it to tweak it as we go. Okay, another 30 seconds. And we'll be back together in just a few moments, so we can be ready to wrap that up. Or at least put it in a place where you can continue it. And we'll now return back to our workshop. So let's pause here. So even if you're in the middle of something useful, remember, you don't need to finish this right now. You can continue that later. But what I want you to notice is this. You didn't have to figure out what to ask. You didn't have to think through all of the steps. You didn't have to remember anything. You were always in control, and the workflow did the heavy lifting. So that is the difference between just playing with AI and actually using it to get real work done. So far we've been focused a little bit more on how AI works, but I want to now shift to something more important, and that is your actual day-to-day work. Because the goal isn't just to get better at AI. The goal is to get better results in your sales and marketing, or in this case, employee retention, because that ultimately does feed into sales and marketing as well. And so we want AI to be the system that helps you to do that consistently. So when you ran that workflow prompt, if that felt easier than you expected, that's not an accident. That's what happens when AI is structured to work the way you work. And look at what just came out of that workflow. It identified the most critical role in your business, shows you exactly what breaks if that person is gone, and it gives you a 30-day plan to start fixing it. So this isn't a report to file away. This is a conversation that you can have this week. And here's what that could sound like. You could go up to Maria and say, hey, Maria, I've been thinking about how much we depend on you. And I want to make sure we're setting you up so you're not carrying everything on your own. Can we sit down and map out the stuff that only you know how to do? That's the kind of conversation that you maybe wouldn't have unless this AI workflow prompted you to have it. Kind of ironic. We're talking about prompting AI. Now it might be AI prompting you. So a quick note, just for those watching the recording, live attendees just saw the workflow working in their AI tool. So if you want to run it yourself later, you'll be able to get that exact workflow that we used in today's live workshop. And I'll make sure to explain how to do that before we wrap up. So now that you've seen the different levels of prompts, let's do another check-in. Find that meeting chat and tell me how you are using AI today. How does that match up for you? Does the way you use AI match up with simple prompts, upgraded prompts, or AI workflow prompts? And it can sometimes help to think of that famous line, that's one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind. Well, the distance between A and B, that's a small step. The distance between B and C, that's your giant leap. So you can go ahead and drop your answer into the meeting chat. Experience tells me that most people probably are at an A or B. And really, it's very rare that I see anyone starting at C. And so depending on where you're at, if you're part of that gap, that's exactly what we're solving here today. All right, so what you just experienced is productivity with one workflow. It's not an AI trick. It's not a limited demo. It's one productivity workflow from a larger system that we're actively refining for printers. And to me, what matters most is this is shaped by how real printers like you are actually using this stuff. This workflow lives inside what we call the productivity toolkit. You just experienced what happens when AI brings structure to just one part of your work. And that's an important first step. But productivity alone doesn't produce meaningful business results. It's productivity multiplied by performance, multiplied by execution. That's what actually drives results. So let's zoom out for a moment. If you're responsible for sales and marketing in a commercial print shop, these are the buckets of work that you're doing every day. These are your areas of responsibility for sales and marketing. And if we move those areas of responsibility to the top of a grid and we fill the columns with tasks that you need to happen in each one of those areas for you to be successful in that role, it can look kind of like this. Now, it's not a to-do list, it's a map. Each box represents a structured AI workflow for that specific piece of work. You already got a teaser of that earlier here, and let me just bring that up again and clear out our search here. This is the productivity toolkit. And it can look like a lot, but here's what you need to understand. You're not meant to use all of this in one sitting. In fact, the goal in the first 30 days is just to use the 3 workflows highlighted here. That is the target account list workflow to help you focus on the right prospects and customers, a prospecting email template workflow that helps you kickstart the sales process with those prospects and customers, and then a sales playbook. That's the workflow that leads these prospects and customers through the sales process. So I don't want to add more work for you, just want to help you remove the friction from the work that's already there. Okay, so the employee retention strategy workflow that we just ran just a few moments ago, that's from this toolkit. You don't have to build it. You don't need some fancy AI architect knowledge. You just have to copy and paste and run the workflow. So that's the difference between having a toolbox with just labels and having the tools already built in the system ready to use. And when you work with a structured AI workflow, you plus AI can do the job at least 10 times faster with no compromise in quality and usually an increase in quality. Think about what happened when you ran today's workflow. It was you plus AI. You are always in control. You didn't have to figure out the steps. You didn't have to decide what to ask next. You just move forward. That's the 10 times faster momentum that we're talking about. And there's no compromise in quality because you're still the checkpoint. Remember, between each step, the AI workflow is checking in with you. You are quality control. So that's why there can't be a compromise in quality. Or if there is, that finger starts to point back at us. So you are quality control here. And you'll notice the quality of your work increases. And that's because you're no longer guessing your way through it. And I don't know that that was always true. Over the passage of these last few years, we're at a point now where we can kind of X out that word usually, an increase in quality. And that just becomes more and more true every single day as AI keeps advancing here. Okay, so today's workflow was about productivity. That's getting the work you already do done faster and more consistently. But productivity alone doesn't create results. If you just get the same work done faster, you're still just doing the same work. So performance is where the improvements happen. And so performance is running small, focused experiments to improve what's already working. And whoever runs the most performance experiments wins. AI doesn't just help you move faster, it helps you test ideas faster. So let's look at what that actually means in your role. If productivity gives you time back, what do you do with that time? Because if all it does is help you move faster, but you're still guessing, then you're just guessing at a higher speed. And we don't want that. We want to increase our performance. Performance is about improving outcomes. So we're not talking about doing more work. We're talking about doing better work. And that starts by being clear about what you're actually trying to improve. So in plain English, what's on your screen now, these are outcomes. These are the things you're responsible for getting better over time in the sales and marketing work that you're doing. And we can put that back in that grid again. This is what's under the outcomes. What you're going to see in each one of those boxes, you're going to see a combination of experts and known strategies from those experts. Some of them are highlighted here. Experts like David Ogilvy, Seth Godin, Michael Porter. They're just a few of the examples. And here's the big takeaway. This toolkit represents tens of thousands of dollars of world-class consultant-level work. And so what you're really getting here is access to that level of thinking, specifically for sales and marketing in commercial printing. But it's structured into workflows you can actually run. That's how you get world-class results. And you're doing it while compressing both clock time and calendar time. And you don't have to use all of it. You just need to know that it's there when you're ready. Each box in this grid, that's an experiment that runs as an AI workflow. And we could run any of these AI workflows, just like we did earlier with the employee retention strategy. And that was from the productivity toolkit. And just like before, it would be a simple copy and paste exercise to start a process where we add context as AI interviews us at each step of the workflow. So here's what AI does differently. It lets you run these experiments quickly without hiring consultants, without weeks of planning, and without guessing where to start. And so let's go back to that rule of business. Whoever runs the most performance experiments wins. Everything in the performance experiment toolkit can be turned into a bunch of experiments to help you increase the performance and effectiveness of your business. And AI will help you run those experiments very quickly, very efficiently. It'll draw the information out of you. It'll bring things to the surface that you might not have ever even thought about. And that world-class expert knowledge, that's the biggie. It gets you working with the knowledge of those world-class experts to help you with those performance experiments. So just think about it this way. Out of every 10 experiments, most will improve something. You might even have one that'll be a fail. That's just the nature of experimenting. But you might also find that one that'll change everything. You will find that because that's what happens when you run those experiments. You find that breakthrough by running the experiments. And that's where speed changes the game. AI doesn't just give you ideas, it helps you test those ideas 10 times faster. So imagine that you and I are exactly equally skilled and you run 2 experiments this quarter, I run 20. Who improves faster? Who learns faster? Who adapts faster? That's why I can say that with confidence, that whoever runs the most performance experiments wins. And now you can run them with the world-class expertise baked right in. Now, remember how we started this workshop. You ran the employee retention strategy workflow. It's just one workflow, and it worked. You didn't have to figure out what to ask. You didn't have to design the steps. You just move forward to get results. Now, here's the bigger idea. If one structured workflow can change how you complete a single task, what happens when you apply that same structure across your entire sales and marketing role? I'm not talking about random prompts or scattered experiments. There's no try this and hope it works. I'm talking about a complete execution system built specifically for commercial printers. That's the productivity so that the daily work moves faster. That's the performance, so that the improvements are intentional. And then it's execution, so nothing stalls out. That's the difference. And honestly, most printers aren't operating this way yet. Some are, they're running with structure, but there's a big divide that's forming between printers running AI with structure and those running without structure. Just talked with some printers yesterday about that very thing. And that divide is getting wider. There's a lot of printers still living in fear. There's printers that are starting to figure out that it's the structure and regular execution that's moving them forward. Without structure, AI just becomes another interesting idea that never quite turns into something that's consistently executed. So the AI Workflow Toolkit membership, that's what gives you the structure. It moves you beyond casual AI usage and into a system that runs your sales and marketing with intention. It's a system that keeps your sales and marketing efforts moving forward. Even when production is slammed and you're overloaded, we can still use this to move forward. So as we wrap up, here's the simple bullet point view of what continuing actually looks like. Continuing means access to both toolkits built specifically for sales and marketing and commercial printing. These toolkits, you can share the workflows with your team. New workflows are added as we refine them, and it's based on real printer usage. And every other week, we meet in the AI Roundtable. And that's where we look at what's working and we help you apply that inside your business. So this isn't just you subscribing to a collection of AI workflows. What you're doing is you're subscribing to a living execution system built for printers who want their sales and marketing to stop stalling. So the membership is $199 per month, or you can choose the annual option for $19.99. That saves you almost $400. And what I'm offering today is the early access to the AI Workflow Toolkit membership. The workflows are already proven, they're already in use, but we haven't hit that full public launch yet. So early access, that's how we are rolling this out before we make it broadly available, which will happen soon. And most printers will know within the first month or two if this is helping them. And honestly, that's why it's monthly, so you can cancel at any time without that long-term commitment. Now, whenever I'm deciding whether something is worth doing, here are 3 simple questions that help me make that decision. First question is, will this get me closer to my goals? If your goal is to run a more streamlined AI-powered sales and marketing operation without adding more chaos and without hiring another person and without guessing, then this moves you in that direction. You already experienced what structured AI workflows feel like. So the question isn't whether they work. The question is, do you want that consistent structure? Second question, does this increase my chances of success versus doing it alone? Well, with AI, you absolutely can piece this together on your own. That usually means trial and error and a lot of time to try to filter out all of the AI noise, putting up with the inconsistent execution during that process of pulling it all together. And it's just one more thing claiming space in your mind. So this system gives you proven workflows for printers, plus an execution rhythm, so the work actually moves forward. And that dramatically increases the odds that this is actually going to stick. So that third question then is, can I realistically make the investment work? Now, for most printers, that's not a philosophical question. That's a practical question. So if the workflow saves you an hour a week, if you get better follow-up and land one additional job, if you can get better sales and marketing results with less thinking required, well, then the math starts to take care of itself pretty quickly. So if you can answer yes to those 3 questions, then continuing makes sense. And there's a link coming up on the next screen and in the chat. Drop that in there. Should have had that one preloaded, but I'll drop that into the chat. And that's the link that gives you that path. And if not, make sure you take the employee retention strategy workflow and put it to work. Before you leave today, just write down the name of one person on your team who you'd be in trouble without. Run the employee retention strategy workflow for your shop this week. Then sit down with that person and ask them one question. What's wearing you down the most right now? That's your one job. You don't need the full retention program. You just need to start the conversation. So either way, don't leave empty-handed. Most printers leave a workshop excited and then get pulled back into production and the busyness of the day-to-day, and that's normal. If you're serious about implementing this, we need to structure your first 30 days properly. The 30-day AI momentum sprint is something I offer separately for $500. That includes a private implementation session to get you going right away. Now, if you enroll before 4 p.m. Central Time today, I'm including that sprint at no additional cost. Here's what that means. We'll schedule one private 30-minute implementation session where we'll map your first workflows to your priorities. You'll receive a 30-day customized execution plan. And over those 30 days, I'll personally hold you accountable so this doesn't become just another good idea that fades away. The goal isn't more information. The goal is momentum. And after those 30 days, then you transition fully into the roundtable rhythm with everybody else. So to wrap things up, I'd like to share why I'm doing this. I started exploring AI because I wanted to make sure that my company, Marketing Ideas for Printers, was prepared for a world about to be saturated with AI. But it became so much more than that. It became very personal because I've spent my career helping printers succeed, and I've never seen a shift like this one. There is a big divide forming between printers who try to figure out how to use AI in meaningful ways on their own and those that are actually using it as part of a structured AI execution system. So I want you to have the tools and the confidence not only to keep up with AI, but to lead with AI and use it successfully. That's why we built this AI Workflow Toolkit membership. It's built specifically for printers like you because it fits perfectly with our promise to help you sell more printing. And that brings us to the end of the workshop itself. Everything you need to start using today's employee retention strategy workflow, we're all done. If you're watching the recording, you're in a good place to take what you've seen today and apply it on your own time. Just remember, without structure, this just becomes one more good idea that fades. So if you want that structure and rhythm, the link to get started with the membership is on the screen. For those of you attending live, I'm going to stop the recording and stay with you for a few moments to answer your questions or help you think through how this might apply in your business.